Ash Parker slammed the hood of his rusted-out pickup truck and muttered a curse as the rain came down harder, soaking through his flannel shirt. His boots squelched in the mud of the narrow country road just outside of town. He was late picking up his daughter from school again. But the real problem stood 20 feet ahead, an expensive black car stuck deep in the mud, tires spinning uselessly. And standing beside it, looking completely out of place in her cream coat and suede boots, was a woman. She turned at the sound of his truck pulling up, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and annoyance. "Do you have a tow cable?" she called out, her voice carrying over the rain. Ash stepped down from the truck and gave her a once-over. She didn't look like she was from around here. Her hair was too perfect, her coat obviously designer, and her car screamed city money. "You took a wrong turn," he said, walking toward her as he grabbed a rope from the back of his truck. "This road floods fast in the rain." "I gathered," she muttered, pushing wet hair off her forehead. "The GPS said it was a shortcut. I should have known better." Ash crouched near her car and gave the tire a look. "You're deep in. I can pull you out, but I'm going to need you to steer and not panic when the truck jerks." She blinked at him. "You're really going to help me, just like that," he shrugged. "You're stuck, aren't you?" "I'm not going to leave someone stranded in the mud." She hesitated, then gave him a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, I'm Tessa." "Ash," he replied, connecting the rope to her frame. "Hold the wheel steady. I'll do the rest." 15 minutes later, after a whole lot of slipping tires, swearing, and one moment where Ash nearly faceplanted in a puddle, her car was free. She stepped out and wiped her hands on her coat, breathing out a laugh. That was intense. Ash wiped his arm across his forehead, rain mixing with sweat. "Welcome to the backroads of Chestnut Ridge." She looked at him then, really looked. His hair stuck to his forehead, his jaw covered in a few days of stubble, his shirt soaked through. He looked like someone who worked with his hands, who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders and still showed up. "Do you live around here?" "Yeah, not far, just got off work and was heading to pick up my little girl." He paused, checking the time. "Shoot. I'm late. You have a daughter." Her voice softened, he nodded. "Emily, she's 6. And probably giving her teacher a hard time right about now." Tessa's eyes flicked to his truck, the cracked windshield, and the way the back seat was cluttered with a car seat, school papers, and a pink unicorn backpack. "Do you need a ride?" Ash raised an eyebrow. "You're offering me a ride after I just saved your car," she laughed. "Fair point, but I'd like to say thank you. Maybe I could drive you to get your daughter and then buy you a coffee." Ash hesitated, then gave a short nod. "All right. But I'm warning you, Emily talks a lot." "I like talkative kids," Tessa said, walking toward her car and opening the passenger side for him. "Hop in." He did, and it felt strange being in a car that smelled more like new leather than fast food and crayons. The dashboard gleamed, the touchscreen bigger than his actual TV back home. As they drove, Tessa asked, "So, what do you do?" "Construction. I take whatever jobs I can get. Fixing roofs, building decks, patching drywall. Been rough lately, though." "Not a lot of work this time of year," she glanced at him. "Do you do all of that alone?" "Mostly. Used to have a buddy, but he moved to Ohio. Now it's just me, and my daughter, of course." Tessa looked out the window, her lips pressing together. She didn't say much else until they reached the school. Ash rushed inside and came back out 5 minutes later with a soaking wet little girl in a yellow raincoat. "This is Emily," he said as he helped her into the back seat. Emily leaned forward and peered at Tessa. "Daddy, who's that?" "This is Miss Tessa. She helped me get here today." Tessa turned in her seat and smiled. "Hi, Emily. It's very nice to meet you." Emily blinked, then grinned. "You're pretty," Ash groaned. "Emily," Tessa laughed. "Thank you, sweetheart. You're very pretty, too." They stopped at a small diner just outside of town, and Tessa insisted on paying. Ash watched her as she ordered coffee and pancakes for all 3 of them like she did it every day, not like a woman who drove a car worth more than his house. "So what about you?" Ash asked as they sat in a cozy corner booth. "What do you do?" "I work in finance," she said simply. "I'm in town for a few days for a meeting. Needed some quiet." He nodded, not pushing. She didn't look like she wanted to talk about it. But she watched him closely, how he gently cut Emily's pancakes, how his hands were rough and calloused, how he never once checked his phone. It was clear he worked hard, that he put his daughter first, and that he didn't realize how rare that was. After the meal, Tessa walked them back to the truck. "Well," she said, brushing hair from her face, "thank you again for saving me. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come by." "You'd still be stuck in the mud," Ash said with a small smile. "Glad I could help." She hesitated. "Would it be weird if I asked if I could see you again?" Ash blinked. "You want to?" "I do," she said, her voice sincere. "I'd like to take you both to dinner, a real one, no sticky booths." Ash looked down at his muddy boots. "I'm not really the kind of guy who does fancy dinners." "I didn't say it had to be fancy," she said gently. "I just want to get to know you." Emily tugged on his hand. "Daddy, I like her." Ash looked at Tessa, then at Emily, and let out a breath. "All right." "Dinner?" Tessa smiled, and it wasn't the polite kind. It was real. She didn't tell him that her name was Tessa Kensington, or that she was the billionaire CEO of Kensington Capital. She didn't mention the private jet that had dropped her off at the airport nearby, or the penthouse suite she was staying in. Not yet, because for the first time in a long time, she didn't want someone to see her as money, she wanted someone to see her heart, and Ash already had. The following Saturday, Ash stood in front of his bedroom mirror, tugging at the collar of his only clean button-down shirt. It was a pale blue, slightly faded from too many washes, but passable. He rubbed a hand across his jaw, debating whether he had time to shave before Emily burst into the room, clutching a pair of her boots. "Daddy, I can't get them on," she huffed, plopping onto the edge of the bed with dramatic flair. Ash crouched, helping her slide her feet into the boots. "Why'd you pick the ones with the zippers? You hate those." "They're fancier," she whispered. "You said we're going somewhere nice." He tied the laces on his own boots and stood, brushing his hands on his jeans. "I said we're going to dinner with Miss Tessa." "Doesn't mean we need to dress up like it's a wedding." Emily tilted her head. "Is it a date?" Ash opened his mouth, then closed it. "It's dinner," he said finally. By the time they pulled into the parking lot of the restaurant, Tessa had chosen a quiet place on the edge of town with warm lighting and ivy crawling up the brick walls. Ash was already regretting the whole idea. Not because he didn't want to see her, because he did. Too much. Tessa was already waiting by the entrance, wearing a dark red coat that shimmered faintly in the light. As they approached, she crouched to greet Emily first. "I like your braid," she said. Emily beamed. "I did it myself." Tessa looked up at Ash. "And you clean up well." Ash scratched the back of his neck. "Thanks, you look different tonight." "Good different?" she asked, standing. "Yeah," he said. "Real good." Inside, the hostess led them to a booth by the fireplace. The place smelled like garlic and wood smoke, and Emily immediately began coloring on the back of the menu with the crayons the waitress offered. Tessa leaned across the table. "I didn't know if this place would work for her." "She's fine," Ash said. "She just needs something to scribble on and food that doesn't touch." Tessa smiled and picked up a menu. "So, I've been thinking about that porch you mentioned needing repairs. I might know someone who can help." Ash narrowed his eyes. "I didn't mention my porch." "You did, at the diner. You said you'd patched it yourself, but it sags in the middle." He blinked. "You remembered that." "I remember everything people say when they're not trying to impress anyone." Ash leaned back, studying her. "You ever do construction?" "Not unless you count assembling office chairs that come with hex wrenches," she said. "But I'm decent at finding the right people." "You really don't need to do that." "I know," she replied. "That's why I want to." He paused, unsure how to respond. No one's ever offered him help without expecting something in return. The waitress arrived, and as they ordered, Emily asked Tessa a question that made Ash nearly choke on his water. "Do you have kids?" Tessa set down her glass. "No, I don't." "Why not?" Ash shot her an apologetic look, but Tessa didn't flinch. "I guess I've been busy with other things," she said, "and I haven't met the right person yet." Emily twirled her straw. "Well, my dad's nice. He makes pancakes like really good ones." Ash groaned. "Emily," Tessa laughed softly. "I'll take your word for it." The rest of the meal passed with easy conversation. Tessa told stories about her travels, carefully edited versions, nothing that hinted at private jets or luxury retreats, and Emily hung on every word. Ash listened, trying to figure her out. She was too poised to be just some finance consultant, too polished to be passing through a town like Chestnut Ridge without a reason. As the plates were cleared away, Tessa excused herself to the restroom. The moment she was gone, Emily leaned across the table. "Do you like her?" Ash raised an eyebrow. "What makes you say that? You look at her the same way you looked at the Christmas tree when we turned the lights on." He chuckled. "She's nice, but she's not from here." "So," Emily shrugged. "Maybe she wants to be." When Tessa returned, she had a small box in her hand. She set it in front of Emily. "I saw this earlier and thought of you," she said. Emily opened it carefully, revealing a tiny silver bracelet with a charm shaped like a star. Ash frowned. "Tessa, we can't, it's just a bracelet, Ash," she said gently. "I promise, no strings." Emily's eyes sparkled. "Can I wear it now?" Ash nodded, and Tessa helped her clasp it on. Outside, the wind had picked up. Tessa wrapped her coat tighter, her hair whipping across her face. "I should get you both home," she said. "I can drive," Ash offered. "You came all this way." "I don't mind," she said. "Besides, I like the company." They got into her car, and Ash glanced around the interior, this time noticing the faint scent of jasmine, the fine stitching of the leather seats. "Where do you live, Tessa?" She didn't answer right away. "Right now, nowhere in particular." "That's not an answer." She kept her eyes on the road. "I'm between stages in my life." "Ever feel like everything you built doesn't feel like yours anymore?" Ash looked at her, surprised by the rawness in her voice. "Yeah, I know that feeling." She glanced at him, something unspoken in her eyes. "Then maybe we're both trying to figure out where we belong." When they reached his house, Emily was already asleep. Ash carried her inside and laid her on the couch, covering her with a worn blanket. He stepped back out onto the porch, where Tessa waited beside her car. "You didn't have to do all this," he said. "I didn't do it because I had to," she replied. "I did it because I wanted to." He rubbed his hands together against the cold. "I don't know what this is between us." "Neither do I," she admitted. "But I'd like to find out." Ash studied her face, the way the porch light caught the edge of her lashes. "You hiding something from me?" Tessa didn't look away. "Yes, but not because I don't trust you." "Then why?" "Because I want you to like me before you find out." He stepped closer. "You think money would change that?" "I've seen it change everything," she said quietly. "And I'd rather be something real for once." Ash nodded slowly. "Then don't tell me, not yet. Let's just see." Tessa smiled, but this time it didn't feel like something polished or rehearsed. It felt like a beginning. And for the first time in years, Ash wasn't afraid of what tomorrow might look like. Ash stood on the porch, tightening the latch on the gate with one hand while balancing a toolbox in the other. The early evening air was cool, thick with the scent of pine and distant chimney smoke. He heard the crunch of gravel under tires before he saw her car pull into the driveway. Tessa stepped out, dressed in black slacks and a soft-looking sweater in a deep, stormy blue. She carried a paper bag in one hand and a folder tucked under her arm. The moment she looked up and caught his eye, something shifted between them, less tentative now, more certain. "You fixed the gate," she said, approaching. He nodded, wiping his hands on a rag. It was falling off the hinge. "I brought dinner," she added, lifting the bag slightly, "and some paperwork I need help understanding." Ash raised an eyebrow. "You're asking me for help with paperwork," she grinned. "Not financials, the planning commission. I'm thinking about buying some land nearby, wanted your take on the property lines." He motioned her inside. "You're not leaving town, are you?" "I haven't decided yet, but I like the quiet here, it's different." Inside, Emily was curled up on the floor, surrounded by crayons and a puzzle box. She looked up and waved. "Miss Tessa." Tessa crouched beside her and opened the bag. "I brought dumplings and rice." Emily's eyes lit up. "Yes, Dad burns rice." Ash shot her a look, but Tessa was already laughing. They ate around the kitchen table, the light overhead flickering softly. Tessa spread out the documents, pointing at a survey map. "There's a creek along the back. What do you think buildable?" Ash studied it, running a calloused finger along the edge of the map. "Depends on your drainage. Water runs fast through here when it rains. You know this land. Used to fish near that bend with my brother, before the factory shut down and the water filled with runoff." Tessa tilted her head. "Did you ever want to leave?" He leaned back. "I did, right after Emily was born. Thought about heading south, but it was too much change at once, and then she needed stability." "You gave it to her," Tessa said softly. He didn't answer. just folded the map and pushed it back toward her. After Emily went to bed, they sat on the back steps, watching the sky darken. The stars were beginning to cut through the dusk, sharp and cold. Tessa tilted her face upward. You can't see stars like this in the city, too much light. Too many people, Ash muttered. Too many things that don't matter, she glanced sideways. What matters to you? He hesitated. Raising her right, keeping a roof over her head, making sure she knows she's loved even when things are hard. That's rare, she said, her voice low. Ash looked at her. What about you? Tessa laced her fingers together, staring at her hands. I used to think it was about building something. Something big, a legacy, but now I'm not sure. You own your own firm or something. Her head snapped toward him, startled. You don't talk like someone who answers to anyone, he added. And you're not in town for some weekend retreat. You're looking for something. She didn't deny it. I'm not used to people seeing past what I present. I'm not most people. No, she said, her tone unreadable. You're not. A silence settled, heavier than before. She stood abruptly. I should go, it's late. He followed her to the car. Before she opened the door, he said, You don't have to keep proving something to me. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. What if I'm not sure who I am without all of it? Then maybe it's time you found out. Her breath caught, but she nodded. Will you come with me tomorrow? There's an estate just outside of town. I want to see it, but I'd rather not go alone. Emily's got school. I'll pick her up afterward. We can all go. He considered it, then nodded once. The next day, the estate was more of a mansion set behind wrought iron gates, the kind of place that didn't belong in a town like theirs. Tessa drove, her fingers tight on the wheel. Ash sat in the passenger seat, arms folded, jaw tight. You thinking of buying this place? I already did, she said quietly. Ash turned to her, stunned. I closed on it last week. I haven't told anyone, not even my assistant. I don't know why I'm showing you. He didn't speak for a long moment. You said you were between stages. I guess this is the next one, maybe, she said, pulling up the long drive. But I don't want to do it alone. The house loomed ahead, all stone and glass. Expansive, elegant, cold. Ash stepped out, Emily skipping beside him. Inside, the rooms echoed with emptiness. Marble floors, vaulted ceilings, crystal chandeliers. Emily ran ahead, her voice bouncing off the walls. Ash turned to Tessa. This doesn't feel like you, she looked around. It doesn't feel like me either. Maybe that's the problem. Then why buy it? Because I've spent years building empires. Buying companies, flipping properties, closing deals. I thought owning something here would make me feel grounded. Does it? No, he nodded slowly. You don't need a house to make you belong here. Emily came running back. There's a room with a balcony. Can we stay? Ash crouched and looked her in the eye. Sweetheart, this place isn't ours. Tessa knelt beside them. What if it could be? Ash stood, his voice steady. Don't do that. Do what? Use what you have to try to fix what you feel. Tessa's face fell. That's not what I'm doing. Then say what you are doing. I'm trying to figure out if there's a place in my life for something real, she said, and I don't know how to do that without messing it up. Ash stared at her. Then start with something small. Don't try to buy your way into meaning, she blinked, eyes glassy. I've never had someone talk to me like that. Maybe you should have. Emily tugged on Tessa's sleeve. I like your bracelet. Tessa looked down, surprised. I didn't realize I was still wearing it. It's shiny, Emily said. But you look sad. Tessa crouched again, brushing Emily's hair off her shoulder. I'm not sad, sweetie, just figuring things out. Ash watched her, something inside him shifting back outside as the wind picked up along the ridgeline. Tessa turned to him. I'm not good at slow, she admitted. I'm not asking for slow, he replied. I'm asking for honest. She met his gaze and something unguarded passed between them. Then I have to tell you everything. Ash didn't speak, just nodded, and Tessa, for the first time in her life, was ready to let someone see the whole truth. Tessa stepped into the barn with hesitant footsteps, the scent of hay and cedar hitting her all at once. It was warm inside, with golden light filtering through the slats and dust motes drifting lazily in the air. Ash was up on a ladder, hammering in a new crossbeam, his flannel sleeves rolled to the elbow. He didn't glance down when she entered. I told Emily I'd pick her up after art class, she said carefully, her voice echoing slightly. Ash paused, then climbed down, setting the hammer on a nearby workbench. You didn't have to do that. She asked me to, Tessa replied. She said she wanted to show me her painting. Ash wiped his hands on a rag. She's been drawing a lot lately. Must be that new teacher. Tessa walked closer, her heels clicking softly on the wooden floor. I think it's more than that. Sometimes, kids create when they feel safe. He leaned against the bench, studying her. What are you trying to say? I've been thinking about what you said. About not leading with what I have. You were right. I've been hiding behind my money for so long I forgot how to just be. Ash watched her, silent. I grew up in a world where everything was about leverage, she continued. Who owed who could be useful. It wasn't about love. It wasn't even about people. It was about assets. My father built Kensington Capital like a fortress, and I inherited every brick, but no one ever taught me how to build a home. Ash's brow furrowed. Then what are you doing here? Tessa's voice softened. Trying to learn. He crossed his arms. You bought that estate, Tessa. That wasn't small. I put it back on the market yesterday, she said, holding his gaze. I don't want a house that echoes. I want one that feels like someone laughs in it. Ash's jaw shifted, but he didn't interrupt. I've been renting a little cottage near the ridge trail, she added. It's nothing like the penthouses I'm used to. The water heater wheezes and one of the windows sticks, but I sleep through the night there. For the first time in years. Ash glanced away, then back. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm asking for a chance to be part of something that doesn't need a press release or a board meeting. Ash stepped forward. You're not just dropping into my life, Tessa. You're walking into my daughter's too. I know. She already lost her mother, he said, voice low. I'm not letting anyone in who's going to leave when it gets complicated. I'm not leaving, she said, her voice steady. But I won't pretend I know what I'm doing. I'll get things wrong. I'll probably say the wrong thing and mess up dinner and forget which day is parent-teacher night. Ash's gaze softened, barely. Why would you do all that? Because I'm already in love with her, she said, her voice catching. And I'm falling in love with you, his breath faltered. I didn't plan it, she said. It wasn't convenient, it wasn't smart, but it's the most honest thing I've felt in years. Ash was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached for her hand, calloused fingers brushing her skin. I never wanted to owe anyone anything, he said. But I want you here anyway. Relief flickered in her eyes. I'm not here to take anything from you, I know, he said. That's why it scares me. She laughed softly, blinking fast. You're not exactly easy to read, you know that. You're not exactly subtle. That earned a quiet smile. So what happens next? Ash looked around the barn, then at her. You're picking up Emily. She's going to want you to see the pond she painted. Tessa nodded. And tonight, I'll cook, Ash said. You can tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'll try not to be too critical. Don't hold back now, he said, tilting his head. I'm used to blunt. Tessa squeezed his hand. Then I won't hold back. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the ridge and the last light poured in through the kitchen window, Ash stirred a pot while Emily sat on the counter, swinging her legs. Tessa leaned against the fridge, watching them, her arms loosely folded. Smells like something, she offered. Ash shot her a sideways glance. That's how compliments work in your world. It's better than burnt, Emily piped in. Hey, Ash protested. Tessa laughed. I think she gets that from you. I'll take the credit for the sass, he said. After dinner, they sat outside on the porch steps, wrapped in old flannel blankets. Emily curled up between them, her head on Ash's shoulder. She fell asleep fast, Tessa whispered. She always does when she's happy. Tessa looked up at the stars. I've been offered a seat on a board in Zurich. It would mean flying out monthly. Big money, big influence. Ash didn't move. You taking it? She shook her head. No, I've had enough of rooms full of people who only listen when I'm writing checks. He looked at her, something unspoken passing between them. I want this, she said. Not just the quiet, the mess. The mornings with cereal spilled on the floor and Emily asking 100 questions before breakfast. I want to learn how to be part of something that doesn't revolve around profit margins. Ash reached over, lacing their fingers together. Then let's build something that does. The wind rustled through the trees, and somewhere in the distance, a barn owl called. Tessa rested her head against his shoulder, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was running toward something or away from anything. She was home. Not in a penthouse or a mansion, but on a porch with peeling paint, next to a man who didn't need her to be anything but herself. And that was everything. The autumn festival arrived with the kind of crisp sunlight that made the trees glow like stained glass. Booths lined the town square, hand-lettered signs fluttering in the breeze, while the scent of cinnamon, cider, and roasted corn filled the air. Musicians played near the old clock tower, and children darted between hay bales and pumpkin displays, their laughter rising above the music. Ash carried Emily on his shoulders, her arms stretched out like airplane wings. "Faster, Daddy," she shouted. Tessa walked beside them, a knitted scarf wrapped around her neck, her fingers laced through Ash's free hand. She'd never felt more grounded in a crowd. People stopped to greet Ash by name, and more than a few glanced her way with curiosity. But no one asked questions, not after he introduced her simply as Tessa. Near the center of the square, Emily pointed to a tent with face painting. "Can I be a tiger?" Ash crouched so she could slide off his shoulders. "You'll have to be the fiercest tiger in town." Tessa watched her run ahead with a warmth in her chest she couldn't have imagined a month ago. "She's really coming out of her shell." Ash nodded. "She doesn't open up fast. But when she does, it's all heart." As they reached the edge of the tent, Tessa turned to him. "There's something I've been working on. I wanted to tell you earlier, but I waited until I was sure." Ash studied her face. "What is it?" "I've been speaking with the town council. I want to fund the renovation of the old community center. Not as Kensington Capital, just as me." His brows lifted. "That place has been closed for years." "I know, but it could be something again. A place where kids can go after school, where families can hold events. I'll cover the costs and I won't put my name on anything. I just want to do something that matters here." Ash was quiet for a beat. "You're serious?" "I want roots, not headlines." He nodded slowly. "Then you've got my help. I know a few people who'd jump in if I asked." She squeezed his hand. "Good, because I already told them you'd be project lead." He laughed, and the sound wrapped around her like a promise. "You're bossy. You like that about me." "I never said I didn't." Later that night, after Emily had fallen asleep in the backseat with her tiger face paint smudged and her prize ribbon clutched in her fingers, Ash pulled up outside Tessa's cottage near the Ridge Trail. The moonlight bathed the little house in silver, and the porch light flickered to life as they stepped out. Tessa carried Emily inside, laying her gently on the worn couch and covering her with a patchwork quilt. Ash stood in the doorway, watching her. Tessa turned. "You okay?" He stepped closer. "She called you her fairy godmother earlier. Said you made all the boring parts of grown-up life sparkle." Tessa smiled. "That's a lot of pressure. You're handling it. I'm trying." He brushed a thumb along her cheekbone. "I never thought I'd find someone who could fit into our life without making it feel smaller." She leaned into his touch. "You didn't. You made room for me." Ash took her hand and led her outside to the porch. The wind rustled the trees and the stars burned bright above them. He pulled something from his jacket pocket, a small, weathered box. Tessa blinked. "What's that?" "I found it in my dad's old shed," he said. "He gave it to my mom when they didn't have 2 cents to rub together. It's not fancy. But it's real." He opened the box to reveal a delicate gold ring with a single sapphire, dulled from age but still beautiful. Tessa's breath caught. "I don't have a yacht," Ash said, "or a private jet. But I've got this town, this girl asleep inside, and a heart that's already yours." He dropped to one knee, the porch creaking beneath him. "And I've got one more question." Tessa's eyes filled. "Ash, will you marry me?" She laughed through her tears. "You really think I'd say no?" "I'm hoping not." She dropped to her knees and kissed him, the ring between them, the stars above them, and the quiet promise of forever settling over the porch like a second quilt. 3 months later, the town filled the newly reopened community center for the wedding. The old hardwood floors had been polished to a shine, fairy lights strung across the rafters. Emily wore a flower crown and danced down the aisle ahead of Tessa, tossing petals with the kind of flourish only a 7-year-old could pull off. Ash waited at the front, wearing a suit that didn't quite hide the calluses on his hands or the nerves in his smile. Tessa walked toward him in a simple ivory dress, her bare shoulders glowing in the soft light. She carried no bouquet, only a single wildflower Emily had picked earlier that morning. When they met at the altar, the mayor who'd volunteered to officiate cleared his throat. "Folks," he said, "we all know what this town's about: hard work, good people, And second chances. Today, we're lucky enough to see one of those second chances turn into something better than any of us could have expected. Ash took Tessa's hands. You didn't need fixing, he said. You just needed to be seen. She smiled through her tears. And you didn't need saving. You just needed someone to stand still long enough to love you right. They exchanged vows, simple and true, and when the kiss came, Emily cheered the loudest. Afterward, they danced under the fairy lights while the band played a slow, twangy tune. Tessa kicked off her heels and Ash pulled her close. I never pictured myself in a place like this, she murmured. I never pictured myself with someone like you. She rested her head on his shoulder. Guess we make a good picture. Outside, snow began to fall in slow, gentle flakes. Children ran to the windows, shouting with joy, while inside the music played on and love settled into every corner of the room. Later that night, in the quiet of their new home, a restored farmhouse tucked just beyond the ridge, Tessa stood in the doorway of Emily's room, watching her sleep. Ash came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. She's out like a light, she's happy. She's got everything she needs. Tessa turned in his arms. So do I, he kissed her forehead. We're just getting started. In the window behind them, the snow continued to fall, soft and quiet, covering the world in a fresh beginning. Inside, laughter and love warmed the walls, and for once, everything was exactly as it should be.